Welcome back to a new video. I mentioned that I was going to make a lactobacillus inoculation for the garden, and I've never done this before, so I really have no idea how it's going to work. So you can see my iPad there. I've got some instructions. So the first thing we've got is a bunch of rice. So I just went up and raided the pantry to get the rice. So there's nothing special about it. I didn't go out and buy it. It was just, this is the rice that we would normally eat. And what I'm going to do, aside from make a mess, so I put too much water in there, is tip a little bit of that out on the lawn. That's better. Is wash the rice. The idea is to get the starch off the rice, because that's what it is that we want, is starchy water. So I'll just give that a bit of a, I'm going to save the water and pop it into a dispensing jar thing, because I think that'll work well. And I'm just going to leave that sit around for a, well, the iPad's now gone blank, but I think it says sort of 3 to 5 days before you move on to the next step. But the idea is, what you're doing is building a lactobacillus trap, or a trap for all of the little bugs and things that you want in this effectively probiotic liquid. So anyway, that's pretty good. So you can see in there, this lactobacillus, or the water, is all cloudy, and that's the starch from the rice, and that's what we want. That nice cloudy looking water. So when I was in retail the other week, I bought myself this thing. Yeah, okay. So this has just got a little dispensing spout that comes with it, but it's a plastic dispensing spout, and apparently that's important. At least I'm told it's important. So it's nearly 4 litres. Well, this jug has about 4 litre capacity. I don't think we need to make that much. So, yeah. So as you can see, step 1 is done. Get a cloth and put over the top. That'll stop flies and other things getting in, but it'll let things that are floating around in the air get in, because that's what you want to do. You're trying to trap lactobacillus. Next step, realistically, is to wait for this to sort of clarify, and once it's sort of clarified, that means we've got lactobacillus and other probiotic type things in there, and we'll drain off the sludge. We'll keep the concentrated liquid and put that into another container temporarily. We'll add some sugar in there, we'll add some milk in there, which will allow the lactobacillus strain of bugs to breed, because that's what they really like, is the lactic acid in milk, and then we'll go from there. But that'll be the next step. So as we go along, we'll show you how this changes. Right, so I'm back out in the barbecue area, and we're going to continue on with the science experiment of making lactobacillus bacteria inoculation. So the jar here's been out with that rice water in it for about 10 days, maybe a little 11 days, something like that. I'm not sure whether that's all that important, the number of days, because effectively this thing is just a trap, and maybe I'll talk about that in a sec. But just to explain what I'm going to do, I'm going to drain out up the top here is a bunch of sort of mould looking stuff that's growing on the surface of the water, and down in the bottom there's no, I'm assuming it's starch, but anyway, whatever it is, I don't think I really want that. I think what I want is just about that much. You can't really see, but I think what you want is just the clearer watery stuff in the middle. So what I'm going to do is drain it into this jug. Then I'm going to wash the jar, and then what I'll do is put this back in with some milk. And so just while I'm sort of getting started on that, what this is really is a bacteria trap. So apparently Lactobacillus is one of those bacteria that just hang around in the world, and it's pretty much on everything and in everything. So this is really like, if you think of a mouse trap where you put, I don't know, cheese or peanut butter or something like that in it, that's what this is. It's a trap where as you saw the other week, or earlier in the video, it's the sort of thing that attracts them and catches, hopefully, the bacteria that we want to catch. And then what we're going to do is, in effect, either make, depends on what you know, but either yogurt or a cheese. Okay, so that's give or take a litre, about 1100 mils of that fluid. So hopefully that's full of little lactobacilluses and other bacteria. So what I'm going to do is wash this out so we don't have the mould and the other bits and pieces. So that's just going to go into a garden bed, and then we'll put that back in and put some, can't see that, there we go, and we'll put some milk in there. And I'll explain that process once we get rocking along. But I'm not going to show you, I'm not going to show me tipping a bit of water into a garden bed or washing a... Alright, so I've been up into the house and give the jar here a bit of a rinse out. Now what I did, it's probably sort of maybe not worth mentioning, but I'll mention it, is I washed out with hot water, just straight out of the tap in the laundry, because that's where our biggest basin is. And I started to walk back down, and then I got some paper towel, wiped all of the inside of it out, then rinsed it out with not a lot of hot water. Then, as I was walking back down, I thought, oh geez, that jar's really hot. I wonder if that'll kill all of the bacteria. Probably not, but so what I did was then duck back inside, ran it under cold water for a couple of minutes just to cool the jar down. So what we're now going to do is put this trap in, or the trapped liquid in, which is pretty clear really. Look at that. I don't know whether you can, oh yeah. So you can sort of see that's just slightly cloudy, but no mould or anything like that in there. So that's a litre. We'll just see how much we can fit in there. Now the interesting thing with Lactobacillus, as I was saying before, is it's in most things in the environment, or on most things in the environment, which is why this is really a trap, if you know what I mean. So you put the starch in there and that attracts them, but it probably also attracts other bacteria. So the trick now is to do something really interesting, which is this bit. So what we're going to do, this is just sort of leftover milk. It was getting close to the expiry date. So what we're doing is putting in the milk in with that. Now my understanding from what I've read is Lactobacillus really likes the lactic acid in milk, which is why we put the milk in there. So I'm told, or the research that I've done sort of indicates that if you put that there'll be things in there, bacteria in here, but there'll also be other sort of bacteria that are attracted to the starch. So now that we've got all of that packed up, I guess the fun bit here is sort of the sciencey part. So the research that I've done, the reading that I've done, tells me that the trap will have caught not only lactobacillus bacteria, but it will have also have caught other bacteria that's sort of floating around naturally in the environment here. It would have just gone in through the top of the fabric, down into the liquid and done its thing. So the question becomes, how do we get this really rich in lacto bugs, bacteria, for use in the garden? Well, the trick seems to be that other bacteria isn't as much of a fan of lactic acid, which is naturally occurs in milk, whereas lactobacillus does. So what's going to happen by putting the milk in there is the lactobacillus bacteria are going to thrive, and they're going to actually increase and increase and increase really rapidly, hopefully, and that's going to give us the inoculation with less other bacteria, and the majority of the bacteria in there will be the lactose. So that's just the theory behind it. In effect, what we're going to do, and we'll see that in the next part of the video, is we're making cheese, or we're making yogurt. So what I've seen through my research is you end up with curds and whey. What you do is you take the fresh milk and you put an inoculant in it that makes the cheese, or it makes the yogurt, depending on what it is that you're actually looking to create. So that's really cool. We've done exactly the same thing here. We've put a bacteria-rich inoculant into the milk, and these things are going to eat the milk and create the serum, or the inoculant. So what we should end up with is on the top, and potentially a little bit on the bottom of the jar, some curds that you'd be looking for if you're making a cheese or a yogurt. And then in between the two will be what's known as whey, W-H-E-Y, not W-A-Y, but W-H-E-Y. And that stuff is the stuff that we're looking at, and it should be rich in the lactobacillus. And that's what will then go into the next stage, and we can dilute that down and start using it immediately, but we can also store it. And I don't think you can see it because it's behind me, but over behind me on the bench there's some molasses, and that will work out as the feed of the lacto once we've got it up and running. But anyway, we'll let this sit for a few days and see how it goes. As it starts moving along, I'll bring the camera out and show you some of the different stages. But yeah, the next step realistically is popping the now empty milk container into the recycling, wash the dregs of milk out of the jug, and let the lactobacillus do its thing in the milk. So yeah. So stick around, and I'll see you shortly when we come back to the next stage of this little science project. Right, back out to the science experiment. It's been a couple of days, 2 days, since I put the milk in with the inoculation, and I thought it'd just be really worthwhile giving a look at what's happening to the milk. So as I mentioned, there's a bit of a curd starting to form on the top. You can even, and potentially a little bit of a curd down at the bottom there. But under the curd, what you can see is the whey starting to form as well, which is what we want. So that's after 2 days. So I think as a project, this is really starting to work. So I'm pretty excited about this. So I'll keep you updated over the next couple of days as we go along. Let's see what happens with this. Okay, I'm a bit excited because I've just come back down into where I've been playing with the Lactobacillus science experiment. As you saw in an earlier part of this video, I made the trap, and we trapped some bacteria from the environment here. And then the next part, you saw me put the milk in to feed the lacto bugs. Then I showed a really brief shot a couple of days back where the milk was starting to separate and there was a curd forming on top of the milk. I came out this morning and I just had to come back out and film this. This is just awesome. So I'll just grab the camera and turn it around so you can see what's happening. So check that out. Apart from that stupid green sticker there, what you can see is it's starting to really separate and form. So what we're looking for, that on the top, this white goopy looking stuff on the top, is a cheese or it's a curd of some sort. And then that bottom part down here where it's clear, that's what we're looking for. And I'm just really impressed and excited that it's starting to work as well as it is. Okay, after another couple of days, so I'm just going to let this sit. I'm actually going away for 2 nights sort of thing. So what we're going to do is just leave it sit for another couple of days and see what happens with that curd. And I'm hoping that the Lactobacillus in the couple of days that we're away will eat it, and when I come back we'll just have a little bit of curd down the bottom there that you can sort of see. Look down there, and hopefully that will have sort of slowly worked its way up, and there'll be less and less of the curd in there. And then what we'll do, out through the drain tap, dispensing tap, whatever you want to call it, we'll take out that hopefully lacto-rich liquid, and we'll turn that into a really cool fertilizer to use in the garden, both in the garden and like our hay bale garden. I've heard that it can work really well with encouraging soil health, so we'll put it on around some of the sketchy looking herb garden bits that we've started putting in, and we'll put it into our compost to try and get the compost a little bit healthier as well. So this is pretty exciting. I'm excited. We'll come back in a couple of days and I'll show you what it looks like then. Okay, welcome back to what's going to be the last part of the video down here, where I'm doing this little bit of a science experiment to get the lactic acid or Lactobacillus project done. So last time I got all excited about this was a couple of weeks back, and now you can see, well actually it was about 3 days ago, and now you can see we've got a curd on the top, we've got the lacto-rich serum in the middle of the jar, and down on the bottom there's probably a little bit more whey. So curd. So curd at the top, a little bit of curd at the bottom, and the whey, which is what we're after, in between. So what are we going to do next? Well, I've got this. It's just a bucket with a lid that'll seal nice and tightly. And what I'm going to do is drain as much of the bacteria-rich whey out of the jar into the bucket, and that will that'll sort of form the basis. Then what we're going to do is top this off with water, and that will give the bacteria a home to live in. So then what I'm going to do is set aside 30 mils, because I have a plan just to begin with. I'm going to put the first 10 mils into 9 litres of water in a watering can and do 3 of the bales in the hay bale garden. Then I'm going to repeat that process with the other 3. Then I'm going to repeat the process and I'm going to put about half of it into my compost and half of it into a new garden bed that I'm starting. The rest of it, the other, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 litres that I've got here, I'm going to put into the little bucket here, top it up with water, put some molasses in, which is just behind me there, and then that will feed and store in here for a fair while. So it just sort of saves me having it in the fridge. So when I was mentioning, I'm just going to use one of these little things. I think you might have seen me use it before. You buy them from home shops that sell sort of kitchen bits and bobs, and they're about $5, or at least that's what I paid for the most recent one. So there's the 30 ml set aside, and it smells like, I'm not going to eat it, drink it, whatever. It smells like stinky cheese, which I'm told that that's what it should taste like. So what we'll do is we'll just grab the rest of it into here. I've got some rainwater around the back. I won't show myself tipping a bucket of water into a bucket of water. That's just silly. But I will just come back and show you the molasses that I've used once I've got it out. Probably worth mentioning as well, maybe, that I'm just going to grab that curd off the top and put it into the compost. My understanding of the Lactobacillus bacteria is that they're pretty keen on eating anything, breaking down anything that's organic. So putting it onto the hay bale garden, putting it into the compost and into the new garden bed is going to keep that, or start that moving along and keep that breakdown happening. Anyway, so I'll fish that out of there in a bit. There is a little bit of curd floating around in there. We'll see how that, see what happens next. So, what I'll do now is I'm just going to go and grab some rainwater that I've gathered. I'll be back in a sec once I've got that topped up with water, and I'll show you the molasses and putting it in, show you what it looks like. Water's in, and it's sort of relatively full. This is, it's called Cocoa Earth. It's a brand that I just bought locally. This is 100% molasses, and that's sort of important. So firstly, if you don't know what molasses is, it's a byproduct of sugar production from sugarcane. And what I should have done was set it out in the sun. So what I'm doing, well, the reason, not what I'm doing is tipping molasses in here, but the reason that I'm doing this is apparently lactobacteria really likes the sugar that's in molasses. So what I'm basically doing is building a giant hotel for the bacteria to live in, which is going to keep them healthy and keep them breeding, so that I can continue to use this for a while. Not that it's a particularly hard thing to make. I mean, you've seen the whole process. But the idea is give them somewhere to move, so into that fresh water that I've just gotten off the, basically it comes from the roof of the building that I'm in here. So it's a pretty, rainwater water. And then what, so that gives them somewhere to swim around and, for the want of a better term, I guess, and live. And the molasses is just a really, really strong food source for them. That's about all of it. The interesting thing is that the molasses is going to sink down into the bottom of the container. So I'll get a spoon and give it a bit of a stir. I'm just shaking, just put a little bit of water in there to get the last dregs of it out. But yeah, this gives the lacto bugs something to eat. Now, one thing I should mention is try and find an organic molasses. What you really want is an unsulfured molasses, because the molasses always tastes good. When molasses is packaged, sulphur is often used in it to act as a antibacterial agent. So we don't really want that. We want the bacteria to live. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a spoon, give it a stir up, pop the lid on, and that's the project done. I'm not going to film me doing those last few little bits and pieces, and I think this is a good place to leave where I'm at with this project, and I'll report back as we go along once I know, once I've started using the product or the mixture, and let you know how it's going, what impact it's had. But yeah, the first little bit we're going to put, or the first little use of it is going to be on the straw bale garden and the compost and the new round garden bed. So hopefully you found this sort of slightly useful. If you've got any comments, tips, tricks around using or making this lactobacillus serum, whatever you want to call it, please leave it in the comments below. Love to hear your thoughts about this. I'll come back over the next little while and report back on how useful I've found it, and whether it's made any difference in our compost and our garden bed. Yeah, so if you don't mind, like, subscribe, and leave us a comment, because that's really, really helpful and will help the channel grow. But yeah, please sing out if there's anything that you want asked and answered, and I'm more than happy to do that in the comments below the video. Thanks, see you soon.